I might start with a question that came in through the when people registered, which is around, and it sort of relates to something that you mentioned, Johan, about the and some of the photos that you had about galls developing on the tubers and roots of the different crop species. So, and you mentioned that the development of galls and the severity depends on the different crops. And I wonder if I'm a grower out in the field or an agronomist, what should I be looking for if I'm looking to send in samples, and how long does it take to see something on the roots or even the foliage, I guess, first of the different crops? Is it a matter of days, weeks? Will I be, get to the end of my crop and I'm just about to harvest? And
yeah, usually, the end of the crop is the best time to sample. That's when you're most likely going to see galls. But, even before that, if you see symptomatic plants, that just don't grow well for no good reason. But of course, the key is galls. You got to find galls so you can extract the females from there. As I said, the galls are not always that visible, so you may have to look on certain crop. You may have to look a little more closely. But yeah, the best time to sample always is more towards the end of the crop when you're more likely to see clear galls. Yeah.
Okay. So we've also had quite a few questions coming in about the host range in the Q&A option. So does the damage on the sweet potato tuber extend, is it so severe that it makes the tuber unmarketable?
I can answer that if you like, Rose. Yeah, well, all the current root knot species we have here in Queensland, cause marketing issues with in sweet potatoes. And from what I've seen from the US, guava root knot can be particularly bad. I've heard reports of some total losses there due to bad infestations. So yeah, unfortunately, the crops with products that are under the ground, they cop the double whammy because they're getting yield losses as well as direct damage to their products. So yeah, that certainly is the case.
Yeah, definitely. There was another question, Rose, I answered it, but so it doesn't show up, but it was about banana. If banana is a host, and it is. So there's some reports from different countries that banana is a host.
Yeah, and following that question, there was also a question around whether guava root knot nematode can vector viruses, and I guess that extends. Can it vector other pests, diseases?
Not that we know of. There's very few nematodes that are known to vector viruses, and root knot is not one of them.
Okay, great. That's good news. So the other question that's come in is around the distribution and I guess geography of the nematode. So is it possible or likely that it will spread south? So it's currently in Northern Australia where it's tropical, subtropical. Is it likely that it would spread to the southern cooler areas?
Well, that's a difficult question. It's possible. I would say it's probably not very likely that it's gonna establish itself permanently there, but it depends. We have it in US now, up in North Carolina, which is, it's not really tropical North Carolina. It's maybe subtropical to temperate. So I think it's possible.
Can I make a comment there? I agree. It's possible that it will get further south, and in Australia, my guess is sort of northern New South Wales, but that's just a wild guess. But the life cycle of this thing depends on degree days. So the hotter it is, the faster it breeds and the bigger problems it causes. As it goes further south, it may actually get there, but not cause too many problems if it gets too far south. Right. Except in Europe, which is of course not tropical, it causes problems in glass houses.
Yes, right.
All right. So my next question is a slightly different angle, I guess, and this it relates more to engagement strategies. So trying to get, getting engagement in the management options and so on. I guess Tisha works with growers on the ground in the Northern Territory and across some of the northern regions of Australia. So I guess it's kind of a discussion around how can we get growers on board and looking and monitoring for the nematode. So one of the questions that came in through the registration was, what strategies have worked well and what doesn't work quite so well?
Yep, so that's a really good question. And I'll speak to the experience that a lot of our community gardens have been having up here in the Northern Territory, because they're the ones that I've been working closely with in terms of trialing different strategies. A lot of the community gardens were hit very hard with guava root knot nematode because it came onto weeds such as, I suppose, our Physalis minima. I probably didn't pronounce it right. It's our ground cherry or husk tomato, and it goes rampant in the wet season. So this was something that was popping up everywhere, and if our growers didn't do good pest control, then it would keep popping out, even if you were growing, crops that we advise to be resistant or perhaps even hostile to this nematode. So the strategy that's been working well with our growers in community gardens, but also in the farms, has been solarization. And then also, of course, planting crops that are more likely to be resistant rather than eggplants or tomatoes or okra, which will get struck down pretty easily, as well as having really good weeds management. There's something else that has been done. Those are the main ones that come off the top of my head. It's also very good for growers, as we have had up here in the Northern Territory, to have a really clear communication link with NT farmers as well as NT government. And that's allowed us to monitor what might be working, or maybe whether soil quality can also be improved. That's what I was thinking of, how improving soil quality can reduce the, I guess, prevalence of this nematode.
Does anyone?
I just want to add here we did some sampling in community gardens, and one thing we noticed also, and I think that helps, or that is responsible for why it's so widespread in community gardens, they often make their own compost with their plant residues. And we've seen compost piles where they put galled roots. You see galled roots in the compost pile. And of course, the composting process is not going to kill the nematode. So I suspect they may be in some of these community gardens spreading the nematode through the compost.
Yes, I think that's very likely. And it really just highlights the importance of education. The sooner we can get word out to the community gardens and hold workshops and have posters up saying, if you see galls, then this could be a problem, come and ring your friendly biosecurity officer and we'll have a chat on how to get rid of it. Or we'll also give free bags so they can be safely disposed of, and I'll take them to be safely disposed of, because you're right, compost is also another risk.
Yeah, or just don't use roots in your compost piles anymore, right?
So I guess on that too, Tisha, you and Stan on his host list had a number of weed species. How important is weed management in managing guava root knot nematode?
If you want to jump in at all as well, Stan, then feel free. I think weed management is probably one of the highest priorities in community gardens. I think for commercial growers, higher priority has been soil health. But of course, I'm not discounting either methods. They're all equally effective when done well.
I might jump in there and say dealing with weed host is a problem is an issue for all root knot nematodes, and we've done a lot of work in Southeast Asia, and you will often find the root knot in the weeds around the edges of the fields where they reinvade from every year. So weed, huge issue.
Yeah, I'll just jump in too, Mike. Yeah, it certainly is. If cultural practices like bare fallows or resistant crop rotations are to work, you've got to control those weed hosts. Some rotations like forage sorghum are very good in that respect, in that they'll shade out most of the roots. That's not a cash crop, but it is a good one that can add lots of biomass to the soil, and it also shades out weed hosts. So that's one that's been really successful as a summer sort of break crop for other root knot species here in Queensland.
And in terms of soil health, having a crop on the ground which keeps a population of other nematodes, like bacterial feeding nematodes, around, that will help keep the control agents of nematodes going. Totally bare fallow doesn't allow those pathogens to build up in the soil. That is, pathogens of the nematodes.
Thanks, Mike. That was my next question around soil health, because someone else has asked about, do we know of any predators of nematodes that we could introduce into the soil as a biological control? And I know you mentioned the parasites that you've just found, but is there anything available, I guess, probably more on a commercial scale? Or is it just a general improving your soil health strategy?
Mostly in this area, improving your soil health generally is what is recommended, and is most economic. I was telling people beforehand, yesterday afternoon we found a highly parasitized population of nematodes. That's parasitized, not predated on, which we're investigating right now. So there are parasites of guava root knot nematode from the places where it's infested in the field. We now know that. How effective they are going to be, they tend to be very expensive to produce commercially, is the problem, and that's why you basically go for soil health if you possibly can, but under active investigation.
Yeah, so there are, in the US here, we do have some products. I mentioned Purpureocilium earlier. So it's a parasitic fungus, and it's available as a product here. It's called Melacon. I think in Europe it's called BioSecurity, but it is a parasitic fungus that mostly focuses on the eggs, parasitizes the eggs, that you can apply as spores. So I know there's even in Brazil also they have products like that available. But so there are certain products like Purpureocilium, other ones are Poconia. How effective they're going to be, that's a different issue. We have a hard time getting a lot of biocontrol agents to work in real sandy soil. So again, it stresses the importance of improving your soil, even to get some of these biological agents to work better as well.
Yeah, I think that's right, Johan. Some of these commercial products don't necessarily establish well in the soil, and you're better off boosting what's already there. There are plenty of natural predators and competitors and things that you can boost through improved soil health.
Right.
One of the issues with all of these biological products is most of them will work on many nematodes. They don't just attack root knot specifically. So if you've got a biological wasteland there, they don't work well because they may kill some of the root knot nematodes, but then there's nothing else, and they die out. If there's lots of other nematodes there, they will attack those as well, and it keeps the population of the parasite going.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our hour, so I'll just answer this or ask this last question of you, which relates to the cover crops. And Johan, you mentioned sun hemp, and I think I can't remember who it was. Somebody else mentioned the profitability of some of these rotation crops, and the need for growers, I guess, to still make a profit from these. So that might be interesting to cover as well. But is sun hemp, can that be mulched in as a cover crop, and does that help to reduce the nematodes? I'm not sure if this is a question around how does the sun hemp work, or whether it's a multifaceted mode.
Yeah, it's the sun hemp. It's a good question because it does help. So the sun hemp works being a non-host, so it's not going to allow the nematode to reproduce. But we've noticed also, we did some tests with the sun hemp plant and root material, and actually, while it degrades, it produces also some nematocidal effect. So it's a double effect. So incorporating the mulch is going to be helping as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's all we've got time for today, and I'm sure we could keep talking about guava root knot nematode and other nematodes for quite some time. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to do so more in the future. I was going to finish by asking some of you what your key take-home messages might be for people listening. But does anybody have anything that they would like to finish up on that they think is key for people to understand around guava root knot nematode? Particularly, I guess, in the management space.
Can I jump in first there? My take-home message for growers would be, you're better off knowing what you've got than not knowing, because putting your head in the sand, sooner or later, one of these nematodes will catch up with you, and you're better off knowing earlier than later. That is my simple take-home message.
Yeah, I totally agree, Mike. And, when you know what you're dealing with in your field, you're also going to be more effective with your management. So, yeah. And I also want to maybe say, let's, don't panic. I mean, it's a bad nematode, but, all root knot nematodes are pretty bad, right? This one is the newest one on the block. And to me, the main issue is that we don't have any resistant cultivars for it yet. So I think that really should be the focus of research too, is working on developing cultivars that are resistant against this nematode as well. I think that's our best shot.
And possibly rotation is a possible as well. This, like other root knot nematodes, has a very wide host range, but it doesn't really attack everything. There are not there.
Yeah, like peanuts seem to be a crop that it doesn't seem to affect. I know corn doesn't seem to be a good host as well. So there are some crops that you can actually incorporate as well. Citrus, if that's an option. I know it's perennial, but yeah.
They sound like very sound and useful take-home messages. Mike, you've just left me with visions of nematodes chasing me. Okay, so
parasitized nematodes.
I'd like to extend our sincere thanks to the presenters and panelists today for taking your time out to share your knowledge and experiences with us. For those of you that are online, this is a new pest for our industry, but hopefully you're reassured that there are options available to reduce the risk and for management. We hope that you found the information that was presented useful. You'll receive an email from us in the next few days with responses to the questions that were answered and also those that we didn't get to during this hour. And we'll also provide you with a link to the recording of the webinar in case you'd like to watch it again. If you've got any other questions or would like more information, please get in touch with myself or Shakira Johnson at AUSVEG. In the meantime, take care and we look forward to seeing you next time.